This video is sponsored by Mindful Harmony. Whether it's the 2003 hit cover version by No Doubt or the original 1984 version by Talk Talk, you're probably familiar with this song, It's My Life. The thing about this song is that each section taken on their own doesn't have a particularly weird chord progression, but the way that these different chord progressions interact with each other is weird. So what chord progressions do we have? Well, the verse starts like this: E flat, and then B flat minor 7 over F, A flat. So that's the 1 chord, and then basically a fancy version of the 2 chord and the 4 chord. That's the verse. Nice chord progression in what we call the Mixolydian mode, but if that was the whole song, I wouldn't be making this video. It's what happens next that gets things interesting. So that's the verse in the key of E flat. Now let's look at the chord progression we get in the chorus. So that's kind of the pre-chorus bit, which goes A minor, D minor, G, C, and then F. And then the main chorus goes A minor, D minor, G, and C. So once again, we have what is a fairly typical chord progression. Here in the key of A minor, we have 1, 4, 7, 3. In the key of A minor, nothing to write home about really. But the way that that chord progression in A minor interacts with the verses chord progression in E flat is really weird, because E flat and A are a tritone away from each other. And a tritone is the furthest you can get away from any note before you start coming back on yourself. If you have an octave like E flat to E flat, the note that is equidistant between the two is going to be that tritone. So how do Talk Talk make this work? Well, let's have a look. There's one chord they use, a chord we can call an N-harmonic pivot chord that marries these two sections together. Let's see it in action. So let's go back to the verse, E flat, B flat minor 7 over F, and A flat. And it goes around this a few times, right? This is the basis of the verse. But then eventually, we get this. So we go normal chords into our A flat chord, and here it comes. E major. And that takes us to the chorus in A minor. That one chord has shifted us from one to the other. Now, those watching who know a bit about music theory will be saying, well, David, using an E chord to modulate to the key of A minor is not weird at all. That is actually the most textbook way you could change key. The most textbook and bog standard way to change to any key is to use the 5 chord of the destination key. So if your destination is A, to get there, you just want the chord that's 5 away up the scale, the 5th chord, which is E. E is basically born to take us back to A. So why am I saying this is weird? This is how we're getting to A minor, right? We're going to A minor the very standard way of going through E. Well, it's weird because of the purpose, the function that E is serving in the context of the verse. Because when we first hear that E chord, right, we're not hearing it as the 5 chord of A minor. We're hearing it in the context of E flat. So we're in the key of E flat, and then we suddenly get an E chord, which is the flat 2 chord. This is an example of what we can call a chromatic mediant relationship. If we look at it in context, right, E flat, then this chord, and then the A flat chord, we're going from the A flat chord at the end of the verse to the E major chord. You'll notice that that is a really smooth change. The top note, the G sharp or A flat, depending on which side of the key change you're on, stays exactly where it is. It's just the other two notes that's spread out. The C moves down to B, 1 semitone, and the E flat moves up to E, 1 semitone again. This is an example of what we could call a chromatic mediant. I have a whole video about them as well, but chromatic mediants are basically chords that are not related in any given key, but they have a relation with each other thanks to having a shared note, in this case that G sharp or A flat. Chromatic mediants are chords that are a third apart from each other. So for example here, G sharp and E, that's a third, right? It's kind of masked by the fact we're calling it an A flat chord, but it is a G sharp. And they're both the same quality as well, so they're major as well. So that's a chromatic mediant, a third apart in the root and the same function, major and major. And that gives us two chords that are far away from each other, but have that shared link. And that can be enough to give us what we need to bridge these two very distant keys. The circle of fifths is a really useful way to understand chord progressions because it gives an insight into how each chord is related, how closely or distantly they are related. And this is exactly how Mindful Harmony, today's sponsor, makes writing chord progressions easier. Mindful Harmony is a great tool for writing chord progressions that sound natural and interesting because it's using music theory to inform the chord progression in an intuitive way. Mindful Harmony lays out the options almost like a menu, helping you draw from chords and ideas that maybe you wouldn't have naturally gone to, helping you think outside the box and write something new and original. Mindful Harmony are having their spring sale right now, and you can try it out with a 5-day free trial, no credit card required. So I really suggest checking out this great tool for coming up with chord progressions in an intuitive but also music theory driven way. Links down below in the description. Thank you, Mindful Harmony, and now let's get back to the interesting harmony of Talk Talks It's My Life. So that's how we get from verse to chorus, but of course we get another verse after the chorus. So how do we move back from the chorus key of A minor into the verses key of E flat? So the chorus is doing this, right? In A minor. Keeps going around. And eventually, when we want to go back to the verse, we get this chord. F minor, which takes us back to E flat, which is the verse, right? So here the pivot chord is F minor. A couple of weeks back I released a video on what I call pedal chords, and it occurred to me that I could use pedal chords to create a cool cover version of It's My Life. If you want to watch it in full, then use the link down below to check it out on my second channel, or you can stream it on services like Spotify, Apple Music, etc.